And my husband and I, we've been married now for 11 years. And when we first got married and had to start having these conversations about our finances and going over the bills, every single time it would turn into an argument. It was the worst. And so I didn't like to talk about money with him at all. And I was managing the finances because that's something that I do. I pay bills, make budgets, and do those things. So I just naturally took over that role. But it was a difficult time just being able to have a conversation about what was due, when it was due, how much was due, and then how we were going to go about paying it. That was where the breakdown would always happen. Over the years, we've had to figure out how to do this process together. And some of the things I'm going to tell you are the things we've learned that we've had to institute in our financial relationship to help us be able to have these conversations and come together on the same page more often than not. So lesson number one, if you can fully grasp this concept, it will make room and make way for everything else to come. And that is, it is not going to always be your way. You have to compromise. And of course, that's something that you learn from just being married in general, or just sharing your space with another individual. You realize that though you fully and 100% believe that you are right about how things should be done, the other person also has a perspective that should be valued because it's their life too. You have to be humble enough sometimes just to say, okay, even though I believe that I'm right, I'm going to let your position have a place and see what we can do together to make everything else we have to do work. Lesson number two is communicate. And I know people always say communication is key in any relationship, and it's just as true about your financial relationship. I know for me, it is the most difficult thing. I'm one of those people who, when I get something in my mind, I might tell one person about it and then I'm just going to start acting on it. I don't need a whole lot of conversation about what I need to do, but because I do manage the finances, in having that role, I have to be able to communicate with him exactly where our money needs to be going. If he sees money in the bank and doesn't know that it's already designated for specific things, household needs and bills, then he's going to be more inclined to want to spend that money and then perhaps get everybody jammed up. Also, in the process of tracking expenses, if I go over the expenses with him, those things that we've spent our money on in the last 30 days, he can see in black and white exactly what we've been spending our money on. It'll be a little bit shocking to him to see how much we spent on things that we just really didn't need when we could have put it to something else. And so a lot of times sharing that information, sitting down, being able to see it together and talk about it will help that person that is not as frugal to be able to see the importance of not spending frivolously. Now, if your spouse does tend to spend the household money on extra things, or they're the kind of person that when they see cash, their eyes start lighting up and they hear bells and whistles, then you might want to make sure that you are taking care of those needs quickly and upfront. So if you have monthly bills that need to get paid, don't wait until the due dates for those bills. You got paid on Friday and you have a bill that's due on Thursday next week. Don't wait till Thursday to pay it. Sit down and just pay those bills so that the money that needs to go to what it needs to go to is out of the way and it's not sitting there looking idle. Now, my fourth lesson is to get separate bank accounts. When I was growing up, I always had this sense that it's a bad thing if a husband and wife get separate bank accounts. It looks like they're not unified or they're not one. But for us, because he's a spender and I'm a saver, it worked well for us to have a joint account, but then we also each have our own separate spending accounts so that when each of us gets paid, our income goes into our joint account and then a percentage goes from that joint account into our individual spending accounts. So his money goes into his account and he's able to do with it what he will. He's able to experience that freedom that he wants to be able to have. When he sees something, he can just pay for it, when he wants to blow it on this, he can do that. He has a little bit of wiggle room with his own spending money. And then for me, I take a small percentage of what I make and put it in my spending account, and then I am able to spend on what I want to, which is almost nothing, but I am also saving from that. I still take a portion of that spending money and I put it into a savings portion of my account. So I'm still meeting the need that I have to save, and he's still meeting the need he has to spend. Now, if you do want to keep joint accounts instead of having any separated accounts, one for you, one for him, then you can also do what we have done in the past, which is to have our joint spending account and our joint checking or bill account. You can still break those accounts up so that your spending money isn't crossing over with your bill paying money. Every week when money came in, we would go through and see what bills were due in that week, and then we'd leave that amount in our bill or checking account with a small cushion of money, and then transfer the remaining amount into the spending account, in which we would spend from that on any household expenses and so forth, so that at minimum we know whatever bills are due, that we're not touching that bill money, that there's no accidental spending of money that is already designated to our absolute necessities. Now, another lesson that we absolutely had to learn was to set savings goals together. Now, because I was already a saver and he wasn't, I was always saying, okay, we need to save for this and we need to save up for that, and he'll be like, you know, why do we need to save for that? You know, that was one of those things we would always have some kind of conflict over. But there came a point in time where he started coming to me and saying, okay, what big things do we need to put our money towards? And so when I would say those things, then he would say, okay, so then we probably need to put something aside for that. And when he started saying that, then I knew when I wanted to start making that savings plan, I had his full cooperation. Having that shared goal makes the savings process a lot easier for me because I know I have his support on it versus me coming up with the savings goal by myself and then him wanting to still spend the money on something else. Here's one of the things that I really appreciate that my husband does, and because he is a spender, I mean, his money burns holes in his pockets. He likes to be able to have a little extra money to throw around. So instead of him going beyond the percentage that he already gets to use as his spending, he'll utilize one of his side hustles. He does photography and videography on the side, and he will kind of keep his ears open for some extra jobs or find something that he can do just to hustle up a little extra money and use that as his extra spending. So he still gets to feel that freedom of spending. And I do the same as well for my extra spending. If I decide I want to have any, I will utilize some online resources. I have made a little extra money through doing Amazon KDP or making and selling t-shirts. You know, we have all these little side hustles. Instead of taking from the regular income, when we need or want to have extra money to spend, we utilize those side gigs to fund that. And then one of the lessons that I learned that I think is really important is to, as the frugal person, is to kind of take on the responsibility of planning our outings and family activities, because I know I'm going to shop around for the best deals. I'm going to utilize coupons and discounts and try to see how we can have fun for free. And if I can plan those things and show that we can still have a good time without spending a lot of extra money, then it's a win-win for everyone. You just want to make sure that you can plan some frugal and fun activities for the two of you and your family so that your spouse doesn't feel like they have to spend a whole lot of extra money just to have a good time and enjoy their life. If you got any value from this video, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what some of your takeaways were in the comments. Give it a thumbs up. Share the video with somebody that you believe can also find this useful and implement something that I mentioned in their financial journey with their significant other. And I'll see you next time.